Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Houston Element Podcast. My name is Missy, and I'm your host. And today, I have the lovely pleasure to invite a professional we have yet to have on the podcast. She is the CEO of her own business, and she is in business strategy and consulting. She is the CEO of a company called Cherished Investments, Miss LaShay LaRue.
Hi, hello everyone, and thank you so much, Missy, for having me on today. This is my first time, and I'm very excited.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you.
Definitely. I always love any opportunities I have to reach new audiences.
Yes, of course. And I mean, someone with your field, young people, all kinds of people, from all kinds of backgrounds need to know about this kind of information, and those resources that are available. So can you please tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I specifically am a business development and content marketing strategist. And I know that seems kind of like out there. So what does that really mean? So business development is basically whatever growth that individual company needs. That's what I'm there to kind of help and aid and give guidance with. So from branding and building a community around your brand to developing a strategic marketing plan, fine-tuning your sales funnel, identifying your sales funnel, your marketing message. So it's a little bit of everything. And I do that in a form of coaching and consulting. And then I also offer one-on-one project work for clients who really want to hire a marketing director. That's essentially what it is. It's being able to outsource your entire marketing department to someone with years of experience without having to pay that hefty price of having someone full time.
Yes. Because I mean, I'm still trying to learn this as I go. But, there's a lot of pros, they call them, or professionals for those kind of, fields, to make that grand company of yours. So how did you get started building your company?
Yes, definitely. So honestly, part of it is exactly what you said. As an entrepreneur, there's so much that you have to do. You're wearing a lot of hats. Even if you have staff, the buck ends with you. You are the go-to person for everything in your business. And it can get very overwhelming when it comes to trying to get into marketing, which you need to do in order to grow your business. So I had always worked on various contracts over the years, here and there. I started about 10 years ago, and I got into the business because, like you, my dad was an entrepreneur. He was more of a serial entrepreneur, and he had several businesses. And he was great at taking action, not so great with the follow through of the paperwork. So I would go in there and I would kind of fine tune things, and he would buy businesses and then do nothing with them. And that would irked me so bad. So I would go in there and even at a young age, just kind of take over everything. And then I started to get some of the people that he knew and people who had just known my work and just different things that I've started up and wanted my assistance with that. So that's how I originally got into it. But then I was able to reach a much larger platform with a large real estate investment agency and managing their entire vendor program. And that allowed me to connect my ideologies, what processes work best, and fine tune what an entrepreneur really needs in order to be successful, regardless of their field, regardless of the industry. There are just key principles that you need to have. And I got into coaching and consulting as an opportunity for me to reach more people. With the client-based work, project-based work, you're kind of limited on how much, there are only so many hours in a day, right? So with that work, I'm limited on how many clients I can really take, but with the coaching and consulting, sky's the limit. And I love every time I'm able to be on a platform like yours and just reach more people. Even when I have classes, I love when I have people from all over the world. That just amazes me how the internet has brought us all together. But even though we all use it, we don't know a lot about how to use it properly to reach our target audience. So I'm just hoping to bridge that gap.
Yes, ma'am. You said it. I feel like, we have like a big buffet and we're just like, I don't know where to start. That's what the internet feels like sometimes.
Right. And it's ever changing too, right? So it has all this information in general, but then there's a lot of outdated information, and that can be almost a full-time job for an entrepreneur trying to take that on. And for that reason, like I said, we only have so many hours in a day. They most often just end up not really addressing it. They do a little bit here and there with social media. They post here, they post there. They're inconsistent. They're not getting actual engagement on the posts that they're putting out. So it's almost like wasted effort, and it leaves a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to social media marketing. But the truth of the matter is they haven't given themselves the best opportunity for success. They haven't actually crafted a marketing plan, a content strategy. They're just kind of out there doing a little bit here and there. And, that's ineffective. That's very ineffective. And all it really takes is just for someone who has the knowledge to share that knowledge. And there are a lot of things that a lot of other marketers should be saying, but they're not really. Now, social media marketers are a dime a dozen. Good social media marketers are a rare find. And there are just some key things like understanding your brand, creating a brand script, having a brand board to keep all of your information consistent. They're not even addressing these things. So I really want to be the one who is different and not afraid to share the knowledge that I've gained on how to be successful, because that's the other part too. Sometimes they may know that information, but they won't put it out there for free. They won't host the webinar to be able to share common practices or common questions about this specific topic. And if they do, it's very light. It's very fluff. So I don't do any of that. I give detailed information to my clients in every way that I possibly can, and to people who just watch.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And that's what I love about my city, man. Our Houstonians, we come together to help everyone out.
Yes, I can definitely say that. I'm not originally from here, but that is one of my favorite things about just Texas in general. When they say Southern hospitality, it is a thing.
Yes, ma'am. So what would you say is one of the most common mistakes you see, people that are trying to do entrepreneurship? What is the more common mistakes you see them do when they're in the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest is not writing things down. A lot of times we have ideas and we just kind of take action, and a lot of people fall into that category, which is not completely a bad thing, but I really think there is a lot of power in actually writing things down, especially when it comes to your branding and your marketing. So, and what I mean by that, a lot of entrepreneurs, they may know that they need a logo, but that's as far as they take it when it comes to branding. But branding is so much more than that. When you get a job in corporate America, when you're getting ready for your first day at work, you're cognizant of everything. You're cognizant of how you do your hair, what clothes you're going to wear, what are your shoes going to look like, what perfume do you wear. Sometimes you're getting your car, a new car wash before you go into work, just so you can feel like success. And your brand is the exact same thing. You have to craft that visual. That is the face of your business. And a lot of entrepreneurs just stop at a logo and call it a day. After that, you have to pair and be cognizant of the colors that you use. Are they clashing? Is your logo hard to read? Are you keeping your brand consistent from your website to your social profiles, or is it a completely different identity from one to the other? So I think that if I had to pick one thing, is the biggest thing, because it just makes it that much harder. You're not giving yourself your best chance of success because you're putting out images that are difficult to read, that because of the colors, it makes a person quickly go away from them before they even get a chance to read the content. It's like they say, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And when it comes to social media, essentially you have to always be in the first impression mindset and make sure that you are putting out high quality content. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't know what that means to create. They know it's something that they need to do. I don't think anyone is out there saying, I was trying to put out bad content. I think everyone tries to, but rather than ask for help or, reach out to someone who can aid them in that process, they just go through the motions. And I think just going through the motions is the worst thing that an entrepreneur can do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it can seem very intimidating at first, getting started, you're thinking I have so much to do and no foundation set kind of thing. But something that I saw on your website that is unique, you have something called SMART goals to help your
Yes.
clients. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yes. So my entire framework is based off of SMART goals. I believe, like I said, writing things down, there is power in that. And when you set goals, you give yourself direction. And in order for a goal to be effective, it needs to be SMART, which is an acronym. And with that acronym, you're making sure that it is specific, that it is measurable, it is obtainable, it is realistic, and it is time bound, meaning it has an actual deadline, not just saying, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm going to do this thing by this time. So what I do with clients is we come up with, what are your main goals? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? A lot of times people have an easier time kind of thinking that way and then working backwards. Sometimes people will kind of either get too ambitious or not specific enough if we just start with the year. So I like to go back to 5 years. What is your big picture? And then we say, okay, so what things would you need to accomplish within the next year in order for that to happen? And we write that down. And then we say, okay, what are the steps that you need to take to make that goal a reality within the next 6 months? And then we break it down for what are we going to focus on and work on for the next 30 days. So that is the SMART goal framework. And I do that in various lengths of times with clients. So sometimes it is someone who's just starting off and we're doing a projection of working together for a year or longer. Sometimes it's just a person who they're in business, but they're just not quite sure where they're stuck at, and they'll sign up for just a consultation. And that's what we do within that consultation. What are the things that you work? We go through a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities that are around you to kind of identify? Because a lot of times some people they can't get past the goal of I want to make X amount of dollars, but that's only going to get you but so far. You need to have specific goals for every aspect of your business. How many leads do you want to get in your business by X amount of time? In order for that money to happen, you have to have a certain amount of customers. So focus on the customers, not so much the money, and the money will come. They need to have a goal for their employees. How is your employee onboarding process? Do you find that you have a high turnover rate? So let's address that and let's set a goal for that. Because if you want to spend less time in your business and less time working in your business and more time working on your business, we've got to create systems. So we need goals for that. We need to be specific about what actions do we need to take in order to free up your time. What can we outsource? Are you writing down policies and procedures for everything in your business so that someone can step in and take over some of these responsibilities? So with the SMART steps or SMART goals framework, I'm able to reach the entrepreneur where they're at and within the time frame that they want to give to that particular development.
Okay. And I see that psychology that you got in there, madam, that I noticed that you're very focused on the business, but also reward system for the brain, setting goals that are achievable for the client, not saying, all right, you're going to have a Fortune 500 company tomorrow.
Right.
Then it's like,
and it's so true though. I love that you said that because it's very true. Unfortunately, that is the one thing that a lot of marketers would do. I'm going to show you how to make $100,000 in 60 days. I'm going to show you how to have a 6-figure business. But that is very difficult to say to someone when you have no idea where they're at, where they're starting at. And to me, in a lot of those cases, I feel like it's almost, a pyramid situation. If I just say it enough times and I constantly find new clients to replace the clients that are leaving, but that's not how I've developed my business. My business, it's called Community Investments because it's supposed to be that, an investment into communities. And it's funny that you brought up psychology because my major in school was actually sociology. And it was going to UT that I learned you don't have to be a business that is solely focused on dollars. You can actually serve your community and be just as successful, but make a greater impact profit if you just create a plan that does that. It's that simple. Nonprofits does not mean that you don't profit. Some of the largest companies in the United States and the world are technically nonprofits. It's just they have an underlining mission that services the community. So I really wanted to bring that ideology to entrepreneurship as a whole, for profits and for nonprofits, so that they can be strategic. I mean, strategic is a word that a lot of people use, but a lot of people don't use properly. They don't actually implement it in their day-to-day life or within their business. They misconstrued working hard with being effective or being strategic, and that's not necessarily the case. It doesn't matter if you're working 80 hours a week, or if you're working 40 hours or 10 hours. The person who's working 10 hours is probably the most strategic out of them all, because they have created a system that is easily replicatable, and they have found the right people for the various needs of their business. That is what we need to be doing as entrepreneurs, regardless if it is something that you're very passionate about and it is your passion. I'm not saying that you have to remove yourself completely from your business by any means, but 9 times out of 10, if you're passionate about the business and you like what you do, you really don't like office work. You really don't like having to answer emails. You really don't, and there's always something, there's always a give and take, or vice versa. Maybe that is your go-to, and you really don't like having to deal with customers and individuals, so you need to expand your team. But in order for you to do that, you have to be strategic. Sometimes people will either fail to hire people, so they're not able to grow, or they will hire without a plan so that they're making bad hires and they end up in a revolving door, continuous cycle, and they're not able to grow. So there are so many ways that a business can be inefficient, but there are some really simple ways to fix those things. And once the mind is changed, and once you're able to see that by incorporating community into your marketing plan, you're able to build brand loyalty, brand recognition, lifelong customers. It's easier to save a customer than it is to acquire a new one. So if you do a really good job for them, you won't have to work so hard later on. And it's these types of concepts that I try to communicate to the everyday entrepreneur.
Yes, and that's we entrepreneurs and people all alike really need to hear. You know what I'm saying? Because especially some of these young individuals, you know, they're like, I work so hard and I do everything. Why am I not getting anywhere? Because they got their mind on the wrong goals.
Exactly. They have their mind on, I want to make this dollar amount, but that dollar amount is not attached to anything bigger, to anything important. When I work with the client and we set those 5-year goals, I want to know, what is your goal for spirituality? What is your goal for your family? What is your goal for your profession? Because sometimes I work with individuals who are still stuck in the 9-to-5 rat race, and they're trying to get out, or they're trying to just get more fulfillment out of, you know, being a part of that. And then we set for their business. So even if they're not per se working or as an entrepreneur just yet, they may plan on launching something or leveraging the knowledge that they're gaining from their 9-to-5 into some type of freelance work. So we want to set goals for that as well. Now that you have bigger picture goals for every aspect of your life, because that's a thing too. A lot of times people forget that you're a person, and you end up falling into burnout because you're so focused on this one thing. I got to make a lot of money. And that's the wrong way to think about it. You have to focus on bigger picture. What change, what impact do you want to make in the world? What change, what impact will that make on you individually? And the money will come. That's not to say that you don't plan for a dollar amount at all. You do, but you have to attach that financial goal to a larger purpose goal. That's what's going to allow you to want to work that weekend when you really didn't want to, just so you can sit at the computer and type out some of your policies and procedures. You want to attach it to something that's bigger, that motivates you and keeps you moving forward. So that's definitely, my mindset when it comes to it. And I agree with you that it is something, unfortunately, when it comes to our younger generations, because they grew up in the TikTok age, the social media age, when all that stuff is really big, and it seemed like people were becoming multimillionaires overnight. But the thing that most people don't realize is those people didn't just hit the internet in most cases. In most of those instances, they have had their YouTube channels or social profiles for years. They have been on other platforms for years that didn't work for them while they were fine-tuning their skills. And once they learn how the algorithm works, because I guarantee you, if they're really doing well, they know how these algorithm works, and they started using it to their benefit, then the algorithm started promoting them. And it seemed like it was overnight. It was everywhere. There are some one-off instances where people put out videos and it just went viral. And that sounds all well and great, but the problem with that is you also have to monetize it. So even then, you're still not an overnight success, because it's a process that you have to go to turn those eyes on you for entertainment purposes into an actual sale of some kind for you to be able to make money. So yeah, I think got to have longer term goals than just, I want to make money.
Yes. And, I don't even know if the younger generation, the TikTokers and the YouTubers today, if all of them know about what the IRS is. Honey.
That one. But you know what? It's funny because there are some older generations that are avoiding the IRS. They know what it is. But it's give and take. They seem to be, and it seems to be that way in a lot of things nowadays, where everyone is on far ends of the spectrum. Not a whole lot of people live in the middle. You're either super left or super right. You think social media is the greatest thing in the world, or you hate it and you don't understand why anyone would ever want to have a profile. Not a whole lot of people who are comfortably in the middle. So I think that's interesting.
Very much so. Very much so. And so, what would your advice be when you have people, because, as entrepreneurs, this is kind of a hot topic. Some of them say, well, no one works as hard as I do. That's why I'm doing it myself. But, entrepreneurs can't do it all by themselves, as talented as they may be. So what would your advice be to, aspiring entrepreneurs who are trying to build up their team or try to build up their resources? Like, where do you think that they should start?
Right. Okay. So, entrepreneurship is one thing. Being a unicorn, something totally different. Being a unicorn does not make you a good entrepreneur. You can be the smartest. You can be the best looking. You can be the most talented. That does not mean you are going to make money or people are just going to give it to you. It takes planning. And that planning is entrepreneurial business development planning. That's the only way. How many times have you seen a video on TikTok and it's this person with this amazing voice, and then you look and they only have like a handful of engagement, a couple of likes, a couple of follows, or maybe you go to church and there's this person who sings in the choir with this voice that shakes your soul, and you just can't understand for the life of you why they don't have a record deal. There are plenty of very talented people that are flat broke. I've seen people on the street corners who were completely homeless, who are some of the most talented people that I've ever seen. And some of them even had great careers that because of one thing or another in life, funny story, I actually own group homes. And it was so surprising to me one day when I got a new resident, and he was actually an award-winning author, but he fell into a life situation that just kind of knocked him off of his path, and he was trying to get himself back. And, so that just showed me that can happen to anybody. So talent does not equate to success. So that's the first thing that I would say. So be a beautiful unicorn and love yourself, but understand that when it comes time to put on your entrepreneurial hat, that's a whole different set of skills. And one of those skills is delegation. So going into that part of your question on how to build your team. What I recommend that an individual do first, let's take stock of the business, make a list of what are the different tasks that you need done for your business. What is it that you spend your time doing? What does your business need in order to operate on a regular basis? And that's not something that has to be incredibly labor intensive or take you months and months. That's something that you can sit down on a weekend and just pen and paper, start writing that stuff down. Then start writing down what items can be outsourced to someone else. And does that outsourcing have to come in the form of hiring a sales team to give you more income to allow you to hire more people? Or maybe you need to hire a personal assistant to just kind of take things off of your plate in general. I think personal assistants are undervalued. Even when I worked full time in a 9-to-5, I hired a personal assistant. I was the only one in the but it was the greatest thing that I ever did. And after doing that, I couldn't figure out why more people aren't doing this. So when I hired my personal assistant, I took from my dad, his entrepreneurship spirit. So I had started a cosmetic line. I had the group homes. I was working a full-time job and doing the business development work. So working with clients in between everything. So that's a lot. And again, you only have X amount of hours in a day. And I never wanted to slack on any of my responsibilities. So I did exactly what I am encouraging you guys to do. I made a list and I said, okay, what things can I actually outsource, including from my 9-to-5? I had that kind of job. They were fine with it once they saw that I had my highest sales month that month. I closed 3 times as much as I would normally bring in without the assistant. So that's the power of outsourcing. And that's actually how I told my boss that I had an assistant. She came back from vacation and I was like, hey, vacation, that's great. Hey, here are all the contracts that I closed. And she was shocked and like, oh my goodness, you have all these contracts? And I was like, yeah. And my assistant, you're gonna love her. She'll be here on Tuesday. So it was just kind of gave her both. And it was like, how can you be mad at that? I've made the company 3 times as much and I'm paying her out of my own pocket. So it's like for an extra $1,000, I didn't need someone full-time. She was just part-time, come in a handful of hours within a week and take care of these things that are labor intensive. So that would be my next suggestion. If you're not sure which things to delegate, which things are labor intensive, what things just need someone to do, but they don't necessarily require your brain. For me, creating marketing plans and marketing funnels and some of the design work, I feel like that does require my expertise. But when it comes to sending out an email sequence or scheduling the designs once they're created, that doesn't require my brain power. That requires someone who knows how to click a couple of buttons, copy and paste, and read, just to make sure that there is nothing that was missed from the design phase that needs to be changed or updated. So figure out which items don't really require your time and then allow the person to do their job. Do not be a hover mom. Do not be an overbearing boss. You have to allow them to do their job and give them their best chance of success. So don't just throw them out there and tell them to do something. Actually walk them through what it is that they need to do. And one little handy tip for you guys, if that's something that you're not really good with, whether you like cameras or don't like cameras, they're incredibly helpful when it comes to onboarding and training, because you can record yourself verbally saying everything that you may forget to say later on. You can watch that video, do a couple of run throughs, and now you've got this training video to be able to give to a person every single time. If the task that you're assigning to them is on a computer, that's even easier because you can share your screen and actually record your screen going through everything that they need to know, everything that they need to have access to. There's a program that you can actually create that training manual. And there are so many free resources out there to help you with that. So my last tip for someone who is looking to build their team is to take action. Stop procrastinating. Stop waiting until you get a certain dollar amount, because if time is your problem, if you keep finding that you spend so much time working on your business, you're never going to make that money. It's that simple. You're not going to make that money and it's never going to happen. I had to sit down, budget, figure out, okay, realistically, can I find an extra $500? Okay, let me find that extra $500. But by finding that extra $500, I was able to convert that into several thousands more by getting that time back. And I think any entrepreneur who takes this advice will find themselves in a similar situation, pleasantly surprised by how much more productive they're able to be.
I agree, because if I don't write it down, I will forget it. And if I forget it, it doesn't get done.
Right. Exactly. I say that all the time. When friends will make plans with me, they know to send me a calendar invite. If it does not get in my calendar, if they do not make me pull out my phone and put it in there, I will forget. Do not tell me about a concert that's in 2 months and think that I'm going to remember it unless you put it in my calendar. Then, of course, I'm there. So I completely agree. And just like for your timing, and that's another tip that I would say too, I schedule everything, not because I'm this super important person, but because I want to make time for the things that are important to me. So I make sure that I schedule time for my friends. I schedule time for my family so that work things don't intrude on that time. When it's time for my mother, it's time for my mother. And I want for us to be able to bond and have that relationship and enjoy our time and not have me, off to the side trying to answer emails or doing things like that. And when I'm with my friends, it's kind of the same thing. I don't want the mental block or mental worries of being focused on work. But when I'm working, I'm not answering my phone for the, hey girl, what are you doing? Yeah. I am absolutely not answering my phone because that will take away that time, which means when it does come time for me to spend time with my friends, I'll have to take away from that. So I would say that too. If you're not a scheduler, become a scheduler.
Oh yeah, just get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will serve you so well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so you offer a lot of free resources available online as well. You do host a lot of different webinars talking about a lot of different topics and things like that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So again, my mission is on providing value to entrepreneurs. And there are just so many things that are just common across the board. So that's what birthed all the free resources that I offer on my website. So I have actual downloadable items. There is a goal setter, a customer persona. I believe there's an ebook that's on there. There are the webinars. There are a few other, I can't really remember, but there are the webinars, which I think is the greatest value because those webinars will also show you how to get the best use out of some of those downloadable items. So I have a webinar for email marketing, which that is one of my most impactful webinars because it allows people to develop a marketing asset that they own. So what does that mean? When you have a Facebook account, when you have an Instagram or any social platform, that account is owned by the owner of that company. So at any given time, they can decide to disable your account, to shadow block your content, to use the algorithm against you. And there is very little that you can do about it because you don't own that asset, right? When you build an email list, that is yours. So if they shut down your account tomorrow, you still have your list that you can use. If you decide to leave your job or go into a different industry, you have a list that you can communicate your change to. Mm-hmm. So that list was invaluable for me. And that was just my personal email list. I treat it like a true lead list. So when I left my 9-to-5, I just reached out to a couple of people and over half of the people that I reached out to wanted to set up a consultation. So before I even left my 9-to-5 job, I had my calendar booked for the next 2 weeks of people who wanted to meet with me. I had replaced my income. When I decided to quit my job, I actually did not have any business development clients at that time, but I just believed that it was the step that I needed to make. And I wanted to just let go and let God and just believe that I was moving in the direction that he has meant for me. So I took that leap of faith and I left with no clients. But by the time that I left, I had replaced my income with clients thanks to my email list. Now, social media is great, and I'm not by any means saying that you should not be a part of that or be involved in that. You definitely should. And I've seen growth in that, and I've received clients from that as well. But there is nothing like having a digital asset that you can take with you. When Facebook and Instagram went down, I think sometime last year, maybe the year before last, people who were solely reliant on social media were freaking out. But everybody with an email list slept easy. Why? Because they had another way of reaching someone. I always say that people have a firm understanding that you need multiple streams of income. You need to be an entrepreneur who's involved in several different things, not just one thing, but they forget that you need the same for your marketing. You need multiple streams of marketing so that you're getting customers coming from a little bit of everywhere. Now, there may be one thing that is your bread and butter that brings in the largest percentage of your income, but because the only constant is change. That's the only guarantee in life, is that things will be forever changing. So something that worked today may not work tomorrow. So you want to be diverse. Also, people forget that the email response rate and conversion rate is 7 times higher than social media. So, if you're trying to be more efficient with your marketing dollars, for the people who say, I really don't have the money to invest into marketing, but yet they don't have a lead magnet. They're not actively trying to get contact information from their guests from their restaurant. They have no way of getting the name, number, and email address from the people who come to their restaurant. You are doing yourself a disservice, because you also, for the money that you spend when you're doing email marketing, the only money you're spending is for the emails that you're sending out. Those are pennies on the dollar. For social media marketing and doing ads, that can get expensive. That really can. It's cheaper than the old school days of TV and billboard, but it is relatively expensive if you are a small business owner. Sometimes you have to spend thousands of dollars. You'll make that tenfold, but you still have to have the money to spend it. But with an email list, the numbers, they flip. And it also allows you to nurture the relationship. And I'm all about building lifelong relationships. Again, it's cheaper to keep a client than it is to replace a client. And the only way to keep that client is by nurturing that relationship, just like your friends. For your friends and you to maintain those relationships, you have to communicate with them. Y'all have to go places. Y'all have to talk on the phone. You have to have interactions with them. If you don't hear from your friend for the next 6 years, not to say that you won't consider them a friend, but they might not be your best friend. I'm pretty sure somebody else would have easily moved into that space. So it's the same way for you and your clients. You have to nurture that relationship. So my email marketing class, I would say, is the best bang for your buck. I also offer a business 101. These are monthly classes. So I also offer a business 101 class, which kind of goes through the entire scope of marketing and what it is that you need to have. So I go over some of the foundational things, goal setting, building your brand. What does that mean? What does that look like? What are some of the physical and digital assets that you need to have access to? Developing a customer persona, identifying your customer journey. Then we move over into some of the content marketing and talk about what are the different types, what are the things that you need to have, how to create a marketing department for your business. And when I say marketing department, it can be a team of one. You just have to mentally, how we talked about taking hats and putting them on and taking them off. You need to mentally be in each of those spaces. So from setting goals and your KPIs and what are the things that you're looking at to make sure a campaign is or isn't effective, your actual content, the production of that, you need to be in that mindset and set aside time for that, your communication plan. So are you going to be on podcasts? Are you going to participate in community events? I think everybody should have a communications plan. Even if you're not an incredibly social person, that also would include working with influencers and bringing them to your business partnerships. So you want to identify what those relationships need to look like. And then at the bottom is your audit. So just evaluating everything, and you want to always set aside time within a month. And these things aren't things that you have to look at or do every day, right? You can set a week in the beginning of the month that you kind of go through all this stuff, and then a day or two at the end of the month where you just audit all of your progress. So it talks about that, but it's a really good bird's eye view audit if you're just kind of overwhelmed and you know you don't have a structure and you're not quite sure how to set one. That's what that goes over. I also periodically offer a class for the art of content marketing for people who want to just kind of work more in that sphere. I have a 13-point marketing checklist and a class that goes along with that. So those are the 13 marketing steps that every entrepreneur needs to go through, regardless of what industry, what products, what services that you offer, whether you are a personal brand or a finance agency. These 13 steps are items that you're going to want to make sure that you have and do. And then I am coming out with a class that talks about how to leverage events to market your business. And I'll talk about hosting live and webinar events, because those are some of the greatest lead magnets to start building your email list, because people sign up for things all the time and they're happy to get that ticket, whether they plan on actually showing up or not. And a lot of times people forget about kind of the functional logistical things, in between that. So those are all just the resources I offer to people completely free of charge. So when it comes to my actual service, the main thing that I offer to people is within my consultation. So sitting down with people and just talking about their specific situation, figuring out what it is that they need to do with my Smart Steps meetings, and then my Compass mentoring. So that's when a person signs up for a package offer of consulting for either 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And then we kind of work together to go through those 13 steps that they need to be doing. And then I also offer web design services and retainer services as a marketing director, but I'm actually booked on the retainer services side. But web design, that's something I'm always able to help out with, because like email, web design is a digital asset that you own. And a lot of people think that because social media is so popular that you can avoid or you don't really need to have a website. But I'm sure we've all been in that situation where you've either posted something on social media that was removed, or you saw a post and you tried to go back and find it and couldn't find it because it was removed, again, because somebody else owns that asset. So your website, though, that's something that you completely own. So if you wanted to build an email list and put your podcast on there, you have complete ability to say whatever it is that you want to on your asset, with your platform. So those are a little bit more about my services and things that I offer.
Excellent. And I love the email marketing information that you offer. I think that is probably one of my most favorite that stuck out to me, because, I mean, today's generation, especially, and some even older ones, you ask them, hey, can you write this down, or can you send an email for me? And they look at you like, oh, I don't know what to say. And then me, I write emails frequently, so I'm thinking it's not difficult, but for some it is. Right. So have you ever had clients that come to you that are like, I don't even know the first thing about trying to send a former email, or like to try to put like some kind of communication for business into words? What would your advice be to them to try to get them started?
Yeah. So first thing I would say is sign up for my class.
Yes.
Because we go through a lot of that. But Again, kind of like the question that you asked earlier, as far as advice, take action. Don't let your fears. What I teach in my classes, to do your SWOT analysis. And if email writing is something that you feel like would fall into the weakness category, I teach my students that your weakness category is nothing but opportunities. That is the most important category to me, because each and every one of those weaknesses is an opportunity. If you find a solution to fix that problem, your business is definitely going to move further. Sometimes there are opportunities that you see when you list it in opportunity category that just kind of don't pan out. But if it's a true weakness that you have, your business is going to be better by solving it. So if email is one of those things that you would put into the W section or weakness section, you can outsource. Just because you need to be involved in email marketing does not mean you need to be the one who does it. I do that for plenty of clients, because email marketing is just not for them. Because to be effective when it comes to email marketing, it's more than just send out one email. If you want to start scaling your business and you want to start 10xing your income, you need to get involved in funnels. You need to start building sequences, which a sequence is basically a series of emails that are sent out to your audience or subsections of your audience after a specific trigger. What does that look like? So a person just filled out one of your lead magnets. Okay. Now what happens? They just get this download and then nothing? No, what you want to have is an email sequence. So an automatic trigger, this person has purchased this, or they've downloaded this, you now have their email, you have their name, you're going to send them a, hey, welcome, thank you for purchasing, list what the item was, a little bit of information, send them something educational that relates to that specific item. So for example, for me, if someone downloaded my 13-step marketing checklist, then I may send them kind of a blog article or an informational on content marketing, how to get the most out of your social media account. Then I may send them another one that talks about branding. So I'm nurturing that relationship. I'm continuously adding and providing value to them. So you want to be involved in sending sequences that allows you to be most effective. You want to capitalize off the fact that you are front of their mind. When someone just downloaded something from you, they're thinking about you. So they're a lot more likely to open up an email that you send them right after, compared to if you wait a year or 6 months. You don't want to lose out on those opportunities. So you want it to run automatic. You know how you hear a lot of those influencers and entrepreneurs who say, oh, I make money in my sleep. I just did this. This is how these people are doing that, because while they're sleeping, they have all these automations out there that are just operating, that are going. And it can be a technical process. But again, you don't have to be the one who sets that up. You just have to be the one who says, I need to take action when it comes to this. And either I'm going to do it or I'm going to hire someone to do it. And the beauty of it is that after you set it up, you just have to monitor. That's it. You just have to monitor. You should be growing it and finding different opportunities to tailor your customer experience. But for a base, just getting started, I think a really good welcome sequence, one for people who are your customer clients, a sequence for them, people who've visited but didn't purchase, if you have their content or their contact information, reaching out to them, and then past clients, because a lot of people forget. They think that the business relationship ends at the end of service, but it doesn't. At the end of service, there's an opportunity to sell them a new service. There's an opportunity to ask them for a referral. There's an opportunity to ask them for a review. So the relationship does not just end with the sale, and that's a part of it. That's a part of it. Most entrepreneurs, they just end their customer journey way too early. They don't do the follow-up and they don't do retention. And those are things that email marketing kind of helps with that. So I would say take action. Don't get overwhelmed with there being so many different directions that you can go in when it comes to email marketing. Don't let that overwhelm you. Just get started. Start with your first sequence. Hey, I have this thing I want to, so let's say, and this goes for brick and mortars too, or if you sell products, because I know sometimes people think that, oh, it's just if you have a service. So if I had a restaurant, right? One way that I would get started would be to start collecting the contact information of people when they come in. Hey, would you like a $5 discount on your next visit? If you just scan this QR code, join our email list, you're going to get an email with a $5 discount that you can use within the next 30 days. You just got yourself a repeat customer. You just collected their contact information so that you can send them continuous promotions and things that you have going on. And then you're having an opportunity to nurture that relationship and get back in the front of their mind, because they may have forgotten, about you. We all go to restaurants, tons of restaurants. There's so many restaurants that I've gone to and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my new favorite place. And then I forget about it.
Yeah.
It happens. We're all overwhelmed with information these days. There's just so much out there. There's so much trying to get your attention. So you can't be hurt that a person forgets about you. You have to take responsibility for you not taking action to make yourself more memorable. I mean, it's just that simple. You can't expect for a person to just forget about everything else and not consider anything else and only focus on you if you're not equally focused on them. If you want to be engaged, you have to be engaging. You have to engage your audience. So that's why I say, take action. That's the first thing. Do not procrastinate. If you do not have an email marketing system right now, you need to sign up today. Sign up. And if you have to start with just sending out broadcast email, which is basically sending out like a single email to a large audience, then do that. But just start. It's the continuous relationship that makes the biggest impact. But for you to have that, you have to start somewhere. Everybody who started off in YouTube, like I said, that's popular now, started a long time ago. And if you look at those videos from the very beginning, you see a difference. There's a difference in camera quality. There's a difference in content. There's a difference in 9 times out of 10, the way they look. Most of them, they figure out, hey, I need to do something about this makeup. Maybe I need to start wearing some. Maybe this color is not, they learn, and you're going to learn too. As you do these things, you're going to get better. Don't be a perfectionist. Perfectionism is the death of innovation. You have to just put things out there because it's in the feedback that you're able to fine tune it. So that's what I would say to anyone who wants to start.
That is just like fantastic advice too. I mean, man, y'all need to take like she said, take some notes, because man, I mean, we just dropping gold all over today. My goodness, man, my poor brain.
I love it. I love it. But you know what? That's why I love teaching. I love doing stuff like this because it's so much information that I have learned over the years. It's selfish to hold that in me. I don't get joy out of that just sitting inside. I don't understand people who have that mindset. Well, I can't give away too much for free because then people won't want to pay. That makes no sense. That is a lack of mindset. There is more than enough money out there. There are people who are making money off of their feet. Okay. So the money is not the problem. If you have something inside of you that can benefit others, then you need to put it out there. So I love doing things like this. And my greatest joy is when I get that reaction of someone is like, when I see people in my classes and they're like, they make that face and they jot it down and I'm like, yep, they just learned something today. I've done my job. So I'm happy.
And I really love and respect your business module, because you really did take your information and your knowledge from sociology and business and make this beautiful, successful baby that is, your business now. And I respect that. It seems very easy to grasp for any kind of learner, any kind of professional.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to have that feedback, because that was one of the hardest things starting off, because I was in the mindset where I wanted to kind of fix all the problems that I saw. My first few clients that I took them on more focused on social media marketing. And then I just found like, wait, we're not even at a marketing state. Like there is some really key things that really big problems within your business that we kind of got to fix. Otherwise, you're not going to get any return on this marketing. That's what I found. I had went to a few people to learn different marketing techniques and, how to be successful with that. But that I found that it doesn't matter how good I am or effective I am. If this person's business is not at a marketable state, they're not going to get a return on any of those dollars that they spent on me. So that is basically what happened to everyone who hired a social media marketer and then nothing happened. This is why. Because there was some level of development that was kind of skipped over. If you don't have a brand story or a brand board, how can I market your business? I'm just creating things out of air. You're not going to get brand recognition. You're not going to be able to have a consistent message. As soon as that person leaves, how are you going to continue that messaging with the new person? Or if you take it over for yourself, it just doesn't make any sense. So there were a lot of just small things like that. And it just blew my mind. Out of all those classes that I went to, I'm like, no one ever told me this. I read a totally separate book that introduced this idea. And I'm like, that's how this needs to be more effective. So that's where the business development comes in. And that's why I say business development and it's secondary. So the business development is getting you to a marketable state and then getting into the marketing. If you don't have a process for tracking your leads, how are you going to know how many leads I sent you? It's kind of, one of those things. You can't say whether it's working or it's not working. If people in your office, if they are not answering the phone, then how are you going to close the deal? If they're not following up, how are you going to close the deal? If you don't have a system for collecting all of that contact information and a place to put it, then how is any of this really going to work? So I like to do all of that in the developmental phase. And it was difficult because it's bringing together so many different disciplines under one place. And it wasn't like I could just take someone else's system and then replicate it. And then that was just it. So that has been an interesting journey, but I've enjoyed it.
I commend you for that because even though, you're more business consultant, strategist, a teacher, teaching anything, which is kind of what you do, is not easy. And that is a special gift.
Right. And, the thing that I love about it is because I'm able to have real conversations like we're having right here. And that's how I do my teaching. I try to do it in a very personable, way. You're getting to know whenever someone comes to one of my classes, you're going to learn something about me. We're having a conversation. That's the same way that I do with my clients, because I feel like people retain more information that's statistically proven. People retain more information that's told to them by a friend compared to something that you just passively saw on TV. And I want people to be able to see me that way. See me as, your friend who's always trying to help you grow your business. I know most of us wish that we had a friend who was supportive of our business. So I want to be that for people so that they can get the knowledge and the information that they need to turn things around. The only difference between success and failure is action. That's it. And unfortunately, some people are making the wrong actions and they're not getting the results that they want to, but it's not a sign of them not working hard enough or them not being intelligent. Because again, you can be very intelligent, but you don't know what you don't know. So I really am glad to be able to do that and to be building a platform that allows me to do more of that. I tend to be very talkative in my classes because I'm passionate about it. And I think that's a blessing anytime that you're able to do something that you genuinely love. I could talk about business all day if you just let me. That is my true passion. So to be able to do that, I would say the true teacher sense, I try to stay away from that hard, strict, teacher, but I do incorporate a lot of that within my classes. So we may have actual homework, so that I can make sure that you're, retaining their information and applying it to your business while we're going through the class. I may actually have a PowerPoint so that you can visually see and hear and see me say it, because I know people learn in different ways. And the more ways that you're given the information, the more likely you are to retain it. So I do incorporate techniques, but I try to stay away from the boring lecture style. My classes are not meant to feel like a lecture at all.
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, and it's true. Yeah, like if you get some great, you hear this a lot about, relationship. You get great relationship information, and then when it happens, they don't take it. Well, because if you don't
Right.
associate the person giving you that information, it's not valuable.
Exactly.
The person
Exactly.
given to you is the most valuable part, not just,
And I love that you actually brought that up because marketing is very much so like dating. And I always use the analogy, and it's very common for marketers. It's like a lot of times people are making the mistake of asking for marriage on a first date. And I think we would all agree that that is very awkward. If you went on a blind date and this is the first time you've ever seen this person, you don't even have their number because your friend set it up. And they are across the table from you and you've been here for all of 5 minutes and now they want to marry you. You would run. Absolutely run. And that's what it's like when we, with our marketing, all we do is post our products, photos of our products, buy my services, buy my products. And it's like, that's odd. That's an odd social behavior. If someone were to do that and ask for a hand, that's what you're doing. You're asking them to part ways with their hard-earned money. They have went through trials and tribulations to get those dollars, and you want them to just give it away to you. They don't know you. They have no idea who you are. You have to build that relationship, and most people make the mistake of identifying themselves as the hero, and they spend a lot of time talking about me. I'm so great. I've done this. I've got all these accolades. But truly, the most effective marketing is where you establish your customer as the hero, and you are the guide who helps take them from problem to solution. And the solution is your product or your services. But that's the customer journey. That's your brand story. You have to write that down, know that process, and walk your client through that process or walk your customer through that process. Now, that journey, that walk may look different. For some, they could be walking through the mountains, and for others, it could be the desert, just to give you a visual. It's going to vary for a different business, but that framework is the same. It's like every movie that you've ever seen essentially follows a very similar structure. It does. There's always a protagonist, there's a villain, there's a guide, there is some type of challenge, and everything that you watch essentially can be broken down to that. That's not a coincidence. It's done because it works. It's how people receive it. It's what builds emotions. People buy more likely out of emotion. We all need to eat vegetables, but vegetables don't make us feel good. They don't make us happy, the way a nice dessert might. That puts a smile on our face when we think about mom's chocolate cake. That, that brings a reminiscing experience, not the time mom made broccoli. That's probably in the opposite direction of a positive memory. So just changing the idea of how we market and what we focus on, what we market, and that we need to focus on the customer. We need to focus on that community. We cannot ask for our community to support us if we are not supporting them. That makes no sense. And once you start to understand that, it becomes clear why you're not getting the results that you've been looking for, why you're not getting the traction on social media that you are looking for. If you're not engaging with them, they are by no means going to engage with you. And I think people need to think of, as you brought up that example of dating, if it's weird in dating, it's probably weird to do online too. If you don't like for someone to just, spam you in text message and send you very awkward messages, why would you do that on social media? Why are you randomly reaching out to people saying, buy my stuff? That's weird. And people look at it weird. And what's always so funny to me is that people always hate for that to be done to them, but they're also guilty of it. They're also guilty of it. So I'm really glad that you brought up that example, because that is one of the things that I bring up whenever I'm working with clients or I'm teaching classes. I equate it to kind of the dating scene, because people too often take the social out of social media. And it is a very social process. The word engagement, the word follower, the word friend, these things have meanings. You don't become friends with someone that's not interesting.
Right.
that doesn't keep your interest. You're going to unfollow them if they're not giving you a reason to follow them. I mean, it's just that simple. Why are people going to engage you if you're not engaging them? If you go to a networking event and you stand in the corner and you stare at the wall, you're not going to meet anyone. That's what it's like if you're just posting, but you're not actually talking to your audience. You're not going to your target audience's profiles and commenting on their photos, giving them a reason to come back to yours, letting that momentum build to where now people know your name. So when you walk into the networking event, as soon as you hit the door, people know you. So we've got to equate these things online to how they interact in real life. And when you do that, you really improve your overall social performance.
Agreed. And I'm glad that you said that too, is that people sometimes forget the social out of the social media. Sometimes they forget the real out of the reality.
Right. Right.
You can see them texting up a storm and posting up a storm, and then you go in person and you're like, hey, how's it going? I met you on so-so. They're like, hi. And it's like,
right.
What happened?
Right. That is so true. You know, that's actually a part of what I want to cover in that how to do events class, because that happens. I've even had that with clients where they had me to set up an event for them. An event was very successful. But then when I would bring people over to them, like, hey, this is the person who is hosting this event. They do, all of this. And they have that reaction kind of like, okay. And then don't want to talk to this potential customer. This is the client. Those same dollars that you said that you wanted to make, it's standing right in front of you. And you're going to ignore it. You're going to ignore it. So, we have to remember that socialization it's important. It is. And even if you're online, and I think that happens just because we can feel very anonymous by being protected behind a screen because the person is not in front of us. So a lot of people, they just forget. I think that's part of why there was an uptake in bad behavior after COVID, because people were out of practice. They forgot how to act in public. Like Mama used to say, did you forget how to act in public? I think that was a big part of, where all of that came from. But like everything, you can get better. You can get back to, if you used to be good, you can get back to that. If you were never good at it, you can. And that's one thing too, because a lot of times people will say, well, that's just not me. I'm just not a social person. I don't know how to do that. That's just not my personality. Well, were you born knowing how to drive? But most of us know how to get around, don't we? So you weren't born knowing how to read or write or talk or eat for that matter, but we all figured it out. And now we're all doing pretty good. Last time I checked, we can all, for the most part, walk from point A to point B quite easily. But that wasn't something that we were naturally born knowing how to do. We had to learn. Someone in our family held our hands and helped us take those first couple of steps. And that built confidence in us, which allowed us to walk by ourselves. That is the importance of getting a coach or a consultant or signing up for a course. That is the importance of that. That is someone holding your hand, giving you the information that you need, teaching you how to take these steps to build that confidence so that you can walk on your own. If you're a DIYer, that's great, but that doesn't mean that you don't still need someone to kind of help you through, or you're going to bruise yourself up. Now, that's not to say that you can't figure it out, just like a baby trying to walk. That baby can just try to, I'm going to do this by myself. That baby's going to fall. That baby's going to fall a lot, and they're going to get it. But it's like, do you really need to have that rough of an experience? Is that actually going to take you more time or less time by doing it truly by yourself? And I think those are things that, we have to think about. Just remember what it's like to be a person and all the things we've learned throughout our life. That's important, that you can't do anything by yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Networking is important. It's not what you know, it's who you know. All of these things that we've known, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. All of these sayings that we've heard throughout our lives. It's like we get online and we draw a blank. We completely forget about it. We throw away the book. And I'm saying, no, pick that book back up, because these things still matter. If you want to be effective, you want to grow, if you want to be well received, you need to be cognizant of the presentation that you're putting out there. So yeah, I love that connection.
That last sentence. Okay. That was the mic drop. I don't know if y'all heard that, but that was the mic drop. Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Well, thank you so very much for joining us.
Ooh, yes, I really enjoyed this. This was an incredible experience. I have enjoyed talking with you about what I love to do. I appreciate you for having me. I actually had another podcast that I was going to be on, but I was like, nope, this is the one. Like, I've been wanting to be on here for some time. So I'm going to make sure this happens today.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. And I hope the listeners are taking advantage of this because, man, if these headphones weren't on, honey, my head would be somewhere over there, girl. My goodness. I really appreciate your time and sharing this wealth of knowledge with all of us.
Awesome. I'm glad to be able to, and I'm more than happy to come back anytime to talk about some of these topics or going more into detail about any topics. Just say the word.
Oh, honey, event, organization, webinar. Yes. Sign me up. Okay. If there's a waiting list, I want to reserve VIP because Lord. Yes. Okay. Yes. I got a lot of learning to do, honey.
Yeah. I mean, they're amazingly effective. One of my clients, we built this list from 0 to well over 800 contacts in a couple of months, all specific within his niche, just by hosting a networking event.
Wow. I mean, the work is out there. The success is out there, y'all. You just have to grab it.
Yeah, definitely. Take action.
Okay. You heard it from Miss LaShay, and I'm gonna tell it to you again. Take action and be cognitive. All right.
Yes.
That's not only going to get you to the gas station, that's going to get you to Disney World. Okay.
That one. Okay. And we are going places. I love that.
Yes. Okay. The whole world. We're going to all 7 kingdoms. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay.
I love that.
Fast lane pass. Yes.
Yes. Going places.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And we will talk to you guys next week. Peace.
Bye.